Okay, so now we'll be able to start. Okay, so we're going to be rethinking math education, um, starting with the core question of how it's done globally. Let me see, where's the Zoom link? Sorry. Okay, perfect. So we're going to be rethinking everything about math education today. And what I want to do is, first of all, for those who might not know on the call, my background is mathematics, chemistry, physics. My core degree was actually chemistry, and I had a minor in philosophy. And there's a whole story to that, which we can talk about at some point. But if anybody has listened to me, they would have noticed a trend. And that trend is that I tend to talk a lot about the history and philosophy of science and mathematics. And somebody might ask, why does Mr. Amos talk a lot about the history of math and science? Well, let me take a minute to answer that question. The reason is because I realized when I was in university, I went to study chemistry pre-med. I left Nigeria 2007 January, and the reason why that happened in the first place was because of I would argue that my days at Federal Government College Lagos. Sorry, yeah, I went to Federal Government College Lagos, and during those days, I became head boy, and that opened doors for me to write a lot more. So I wrote some of my first book manuscripts when I was still in secondary school, essentially. But when I graduated, I started speaking at secondary schools across Abuja about just different things on how to prepare for life. And that was when someone from the US Embassy heard about this young man traveling around, and it opened the door for me to go to school in the US. So that was Dr. Daniel Obaka. So that's a little bit of my background in terms of how I ended up in the US. But I came to the US to study chemistry and pre-med. Philosophy came on later on. My goal was to be a pediatrician to inspire young people to become who God made them to be. I wanted to inspire young people. Ben Carson had inspired me. I wanted to inspire young people. Now, I graduated 2010. My degree, as I said, was in chemistry, pre-med. So I had to take courses in biology, and I was going to go to medical school. But my passion for teaching and education and equipping the mind and apologetics really took off when I was in university. So I moved out of that path and went towards the PhD option, which was going to be in chemistry or biochemistry. Now, um, I'm telling a little bit of my story because it helps you understand how I approach mathematics and science. My goals for further education were centered around chemistry, philosophy of science. Those are the two key areas. But then I got a job teaching at a secondary school, and I did. I taught for about 2 years, which is kind of interesting. You don't meet a lot of Nigerians who actually get to teach and interact with the K-12 system in America. I did it partly because I was told about it after I spoke at the chapel at the school, and I thought to myself, no, I'm not going to teach at a school because all my friends were in medical school, they were in PhD school, they were doing all these things. So for me to go teach, it felt like, something nobody had really done. But I had to put that aside, and I did that which my heart really longed for, which was to inspire young people. The same thing I'd wanted to do for a long time. It was during this time of teaching, I believe, that I came face to face with this issue of, you might call, I don't know, it might be a little extreme, but like destiny, where you feel like this is why I exist. I exist to inspire young people, right? By God's grace. And so that was when I started dealing with the American math curriculum. This was in 2011 to 2013. And then it dawned on me that the math curriculum program was actually in America is actually very bad. And I don't think many people will sit here and debate that. That's not a question that is really worth much of a debate. Everybody agrees that, yeah, this thing is not really working. The question is, what is the solution? Well, that's one of the questions we'll be answering today. But as I study math education, which I've literally done almost every day for the last 12 to 13 years, almost every week, I'm literally dissecting or studying math education. What I realize is that the problem is actually beyond just America. There's two problems we're dealing with, and we're going to talk about them here. The first problem we're dealing with is, yes, in America, America is one of the worst nations when it comes to math education sort of standards or all these measurements they give, and America ranks low. We know that. But the second issue, I would argue, which is actually a different issue completely, but the way we teach mathematics is actually not ideal sense that we are almost teaching it from a threatening perspective where students feel like they have to learn it because of the state test. They have to learn it because of this and that. But it's not because they love it. And that is part of the problem. If somebody loves something, they are willing to do more of it. And so my solution to the math education problem globally, which is tied to STEM program, right, which is tied to STEM clubs across Africa, is like one of the things we want to do is we want to address how mathematics can be taught well. So let me address a few different people on this call, or different people that are invited to these meetings. The first category are people who are classroom teachers. So you're a classroom teacher, that's one category. The other one is that maybe you are doing after school lessons like the STEM clubs across Africa, which is part of what we are doing, that this training is for. So we have classroom teachers, we have people who are doing STEM clubs across Africa. We have parents, concerned parents that just want to improve how to help their children. That is another category. So we have people that are also doing it for just to help their children better understand mathematics. So this call has people from different categories. So let me quickly say one thing about mathematics and then we'll go on. When you look at the future of education or of the world, mathematics is going to become way more important than it has ever been in the history of humanity. So I want to address that first, and then I'll come back to why we need to love mathematics, independent of its applicability. On the applicability side, I was watching the CEO of NVIDIA yesterday, and he was talking about the future of computing and the future of AI and the future of engineering. And I'm just going to be honest with everyone on this call. Our students globally are not ready for the level of STEM expectation that the world is about to encounter. We have a low bar and we have to fix it fast if we want those students to become CEO of companies like NVIDIA. So my vision is I want the students that go through our program or any of our math program to be ready and competent to go into any field of engineering if they want to, without entering university and being concerned that they're behind. So number one is that we need way more mathematics. Here are the reasons. In terms of its applicability, we need it for quantum computing. We need it for AI infrastructure. We need it for engineering. We need it for space exploration, which I'm not planning to go to Mars. But for those who want to go to Mars, you're going to need people that know math, right? To build these systems. So we have all these reasons we need math. However, let me say one more thing. It's not enough to learn math because of its applicability. When it comes to its applicability, oh yes, we need a lot of it. But what we need to do is we need to focus instead, I would argue, on mathematics. Sorry, let me just stop sharing the screen here for a second. We need to focus on mathematics. And sorry, it's funny I say I'm not going to space, but my background has space. We need to focus on mathematics for its own beauty. We need to focus on mathematics for its own beauty. I think that there are many educators that do not understand the importance of teaching mathematics for its inherent beauty. Why does this matter? Because if I love something, I'll do more of it. If I love something, I'll do more of it. But the problem we have in education today is that our classrooms are not tailored towards helping students to love it. Instead, what happens is students have to do it because we tell them you have to. Let's solve that problem. How many people say that they hate music? How many people say that they hate art? That's almost non-existent. You hardly meet people that tell you. You could tell me later when we do our Q&A. Have you ever met someone who says, I hate music or I hate art? Rarely have you heard that, right? Why do people say I hate math? And that is okay. That's not fair. Because mathematics is no different from music and art in the sense that it has inherent beauty. But the way it has been taught in an attempt to help with its applicability has caused us to lose too many students to math, who have lost too many students who would have become great mathematicians because of how we teach it. And that needs to stop. Like that needs to stop today. Why does that need to stop today? Because remember what I mentioned earlier. There is a huge need for more people that understand mathematics. That need is about to skyrocket, literally. And here we are. And here we are with many students saying I hate math or I'm not a math person. These are not things that are true. Like What is a math person? I mean, you could argue that some people are exceptional in mathematics. Yes, those people exist, but the majority of people can do very well in math. So one of the things I was going to say is that the reason why there's a huge technological advancement and robotics engineering is growing and growing, guess what the reason is? They said there's not enough skilled labor, so we're just going to make robots. Wow. We're just going to make robots. What if we tried another strategy? What if we trained 1 million students to become very good at math? One more million, or 2 more million, or 3 million, right? But we really have to redeem mathematics. We have to redeem mathematics. And the way we do it is not the way that it has been done over the last 150 years. We cannot tie mathematics to state standards and expect that students are going to want to love mathematics. Do we need to have standards and expectations? Yeah, of course we do, but we have to be careful how we implement them. Okay, so now how do we get people to love mathematics? Before well, actually, let me just go to it. Let me cut to the chase. Number one, in the age of AI, there is no rush in giving more knowledge and forcing people to swallow all the knowledge. You know how you think of, when it comes to knowledge, think of it this way. Like, there are people who, let me phrase it back this way. There are people who used to learn a lot of stuff because we have to finish the syllabus by this date or by that date. Did you know that you can actually finish the syllabus in half the time if you use the right techniques? That was before AI even came. That was part of my PhD year that I did, 1 year of my PhD, which was in, I did physical chemistry, STEM education, history of chemistry. Those were my areas that I took courses in. And what you realize is that if you use the right techniques, students can actually finish the syllabus in half the year. Now, some teachers would hear that and think, well, what am I going to do with the student the rest of the year if they finish in half the year? Well, this gets back to the issue of what is the point of education in the first place. There was a time where education was about giving more information. You're giving the students information to absorb. But here's the thing, though. There's something now called large language models, and they're getting better and better. And everybody has access to them. That means that if your goal is to teach people so they have more knowledge in their heads, that goal is no longer valid, because they are literally competing with large language models and they cannot win. These large language models have all the knowledge on the internet that can be tailored to the needs of anybody that wants it when they want it. That's profound. What then is the point of education? It needs to be about the formation of human beings, about helping human beings learn how to live. But how many classrooms in the world are teaching people how to live? We're so focused on knowledge, we don't have time to talk about how to live. So education needs to actually go back to being, it needs to be focused on, how can I help people be who they were created to be? And how can I help them use the skills and the talents and the abilities they have? And how can we connect them to a mentor that can help them to flourish? See, the things about education need to change. Knowledge is now readily available in excessive amounts, not only to be acquired from the internet, but can be curated and tailored to the need of the person who wants that knowledge. I'll give you a practical example. My son and I were talking yesterday, and the question of semiconductors came up. And so I told him, he's 13 years old, he wants to be a mechanical engineer. But I told him, why don't we do a session about semiconductors and how they are made? And guess what? We're going to create a curriculum just for that topic today. Literally, we're going to learn how to build semiconductors. That's what we're working on today. He's homeschooled and our kids are homeschooled. My wife and I have 7 kids and they're homeschooled. And so we are tailoring his education to meet certain things he has an interest in. Now, he's learning English, he's learning science, he's learning math, he's learning all those things, even though he's learning it at the pace of his mastery. And by God's grace, he's already doing 10th grade math. He's going to be getting into 11th grade math and next year. So we are just going ahead. We're not bound by the limits of any educational standards, which leads me to one of the core things I wanted to talk about today. Please think outside the box. Please think outside the box. Some of the things I believe about education will come as a shock to people, and it's only because we haven't paused to ask, why have we done it this way in the past? I started this presentation with a list of courses, which I'll bring back in a second. But the first thing I'm trying to get at is people will love math if we connect it to something that matters to them. People will love math if we connect it to things that matter to them, or at least they are more likely to love it. The current model we're using is not encouraging them to love it. Instead, let me give you an example. If John is 5 years older than his brother and 3 years, what are we doing? Like, who does that? If I ever met someone who was talking to me like that, I'm going to a different place. I'm not talking to someone who walks up to me and says, "Hey, how old is Cynthia?" If John is 5 years older than Cynthia, but 2 years older than, really? Where did we? Now we do it because we want the kids to appreciate the applications of the math. But can't we do? Can we do a little better? Can we connect it to, like, here's a basketball court. What are the dimensions of the basketball court? What is the area of the basketball court? What is the parabolic function for how a basketball goes to the hoop? Now the student might listen to you because they play basketball. But nobody is asking the age of their siblings using algebra. Nobody. And if they are, they need to get a new hobby, right? And so my point is, the methods we use are sometimes removing the passion and the love for the subject. And for me, that troubles me because I know math is beautiful. I know it. And many of us know it. But how are we going to change the story? We have to think outside the box. I told one of our tutors recently, I said, imagine you were in the candle making industry around 1800, making candles. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes to you and tells you electricity is here. But you don't listen and you keep making candles because you think, oh, this candle making industry still needs to go because it's always been here. You're going to be shocked one day when you realize nobody's coming to buy candles anymore because electricity is here. That is literally the moment we're living in right now in the world. There is a model of education that has lasted for 150, 200 years. And now there's this tool with AI and the internet and everything. And if you keep teaching in the old model, you're going to be shocked when you graduate and you've gotten an A1 and you were sweating and you realize nobody wants to hire you. Nobody's interested in your skills. Why? Because you don't know how to augment it with the technology that is running industries. The way the world is going, in America at least, there is no industry that is not touched by AI at this point. That's the direction it's going. Like our cars, our phones, our fridges, everything is going to have AI built in. And yet, how many students actually understand the mathematics of AI? How many students understand the mathematics of machine learning? So we need students to understand that, but we also need the passion needs to come from applying the knowledge that the student has gained. Like, if you're teaching students a topic in geometry, can you connect it to the things that they find interesting? We have to connect knowledge to application. And I would argue one more way to inspire students to love learning is that we also need to show the students the history of the concepts that they're learning. The history of the concepts that they're learning. Do we know where prime numbers came from? How many people can explain where did prime numbers come from and what are they used for today? How many of our students can explain that? We need to show them that Euclid, the father of geometry, is the same person behind prime numbers. That Euclid's book is readily available for anybody to read, and they should read it. Our students don't read Euclid. Our students don't read Euler. Our students don't read Newton. So how are they going to be the best in mathematics in the world? My goal for educators is this. As I work with educators and parents, I want your children and teachers, I want your students to become the best in math that the world has ever had. And you can make that happen by showing them the books of the greatest mathematicians the world has ever had. Let me tell you a story about Isaac Newton and this question of how he loved mathematics. Newton went to Cambridge University in 1661, and he went to study law. Yes, Isaac Newton went to Cambridge to study law. And while he was at Cambridge, his professor, one of his teachers, his name was Isaac Barrow. Isaac Barrow gave him an assignment when they had a plague come through. There was a plague in England in the 1600s. And so Newton had to go home, and his professor told him to study more mathematics. Newton came back around 1666, and Newton was something else. How did Newton go from where he was to becoming literally in the history of the world, there have only been a few people like Isaac Newton when it comes to math and physics. Newton studied people like Euclid's work and Descartes. He studied their work. He understood and he learned by mastery. Now, why did Newton go to Cambridge to study law? Why didn't Newton study physics? Because Newton hadn't done what Newton was going to do. Let me repeat. Newton studied law, not physics, because Newton hadn't done what Newton was going to do. Imagine one man, Newtonian physics comes about. So he couldn't study physics because he hadn't done what he was going to do, which when he did it, more and more people started studying physics. But physics was not independent of other things, though. See, what happened was after Newton died in 1727, there was another man named Leonhard Euler that had come to the scene. And Leonhard Euler is the greatest mathematician, in my view, and in many people's view, in the history of the world. He's the most prolific mathematician that has ever lived. And Euler carried on the work of some of the things that Newton did. And Euler and then Gauss, all these people used to study math and science combined. It wasn't until the 1800s we started breaking them apart. Are you guys seeing part of the problem with education today? Is that we removed physics, math, and chemistry and broke them apart. They used to be together. They used to be together. And if you leave them together, students are more likely to love it because they see the context of it. Our current education system has broken subjects down so that they are now fragmented and students don't understand why anything matters anymore. That is what we're seeking to solve. That is what STEM clubs across Africa is seeking to solve. We are trying to recreate the world that gave Isaac Newton. The way we do that is partly by using this curriculum that I mentioned earlier. The way we do that is by telling students, give me 1 second, I'm going to share the screen I shared earlier. The way we help students become like Isaac Newton is by doing this. So what is this? Let's talk about this. This was what was on the board earlier. If you give me a primary 6 student anywhere in the world today, by God's grace, they will complete these courses on that page. If you give me a primary 6 student, they will complete everything on that page. And here's the thing. They won't even realize how much progress they're making. By the time they graduate, they'll complete it by the end of their secondary school. That's what I mean. So this is 7 years. What you're watching is 7 years of mathematics. But notice that I start them off with pre-algebra. So all our students in STEM clubs across Africa actually have to go through the pre-algebra assessment because we need to know what they know and what they don't know. So that's level 1. Everybody needs to learn pre-algebra. And I've worked with students who were in secondary school, but they didn't know how to add fractions. That's the problem. Mathematics doesn't care how old somebody is. All mathematics cares is, do you know the prerequisites? Let's continue down this list. So I take them through pre-algebra, and then they do algebra 1 and 2 combined. By the way, pre-algebra, algebra 1, and algebra 2 can be completed in a year comfortably, just so you know, for the laziest students. If you give me a lazy student, we'll do 3 of them in a year. If you give me a hardworking student, we'll do double. So the point is, we are thinking inside the box. We need to think outside the box. Number 1, pre-algebra, when you get your solid foundation, then you do algebra 1 and 2. Then you do geometry and pre-calculus. See, pre-calculus includes trigonometry. Geometry and pre-calculus can be done comfortably together. Then guess what? In my curriculum, which is called Counting the Calculus, why is chemistry and physics there? Because we're trying to redeem mathematics. And if you're going to teach calculus, you have to teach it with physics. There is Newton invented the calculus because he wanted people to understand the planets and the motion and astronomy and physics. Newton invented calculus so that people could do physics better. Like, let that sink in. Isaac Newton invented calculus so people could do physics better. But today we teach calculus without physics. Now, some people do take physics around the same time. What I'm saying is we need to be doing them together so students see why it exists. Now, I didn't put biology on this list, but it is something I've studied and I've taught for years. And we do, the reason why biology is not here is because this particular bundle is for the mathematical sciences and not the biological sciences. But you could do chemistry, physics, and biology. That's fine within this framework. Then students need to do statistics, economics, and data science. Every student in the world needs to understand all those fields I just mentioned. These are no longer a luxury. This is nothing to do with any country's standards. This is the way of the future. The richest man in the world today did not study engineering. For those who don't know, Elon Musk does not have an engineering degree. He did not study aeronautical engineering. But like I'm saying at the college, he studied physics and economics because he wanted to understand how businesses worked. Now, he knows engineering more than many engineers today. I'm not saying that he doesn't know that, but my point is he learned the thing he needed to learn within engineering to build the rockets he needed to build, but he had the foundation with physics and economics to understand ways of thinking. So my point in that is every child needs to answer the question, why do I exist and what do I want to do with the life I've been blessed with? And once we know what that child wants to do with the life they've been blessed with, we need to tailor their learning to meet their passion and desires in life. They still need to get a solid foundation. This list I'm showing on here, there's only a few classes I wouldn't require for everybody, like Calc 2 and Calc 3, but everything else, everybody in the world should have. Because those are the building blocks of the world they're growing up in, which is a very advanced technological world. So we have statistics, economics, and data science. And then we have linear algebra, which is why AI works. One of the main reasons AI works is because of linear algebra. And people don't even take that sometimes in school. Then we have discrete mathematics, calculus 2, calculus 3. Now, calculus 1 is implied here, and it's in the mathematics for machine learning. So mathematics for machine learning includes calculus, differential equations, calc 2, calc 3, data science, linear algebra type concepts. All these courses, we have textbooks for them. We have workbooks for them. We have videos for them. You could find them on many university websites. Like, this is the world our children are growing up in. They have all of this available to them. So why are we still getting children only, okay, you're in this grade, so you only take 1 year of math? Why? Why don't you allow them go at the pace of their mastery? Now, what I also offer students is 30 college credits available for the courses that they take. What that means is that when they go to school in America, for example, they've already completed 1 year of a full college. So we provide students with 1 full year of college. So when they show up, they are literally already in their second year of university. They're not in the first year. They're in the second year. And we want to make this available to everybody around the world. This is countingtocalculus.org. This is available to all our students in STEM clubs across Africa. Again, we have to think outside the box when it comes to mathematics education around the world. So let me land my plane today. We have to think outside the box. We have to start helping students to dream big. We have to start showing students how what they're learning is connected to the real world. We have to tell them the stories behind the people that have invented these things. We have to show them how to use AI efficiently and effectively to double or triple or quadruple what they would have done before AI came. I hope that you see where I'm coming from. I'm saying we need to raise the bar because the technology is now available. Therefore, let us raise the bar. Thank you so much, and I'll take questions, thoughts, comments, objections. Any questions, thoughts, comments, objections as we land our plane for today?
No question.
Well, I appreciate everyone who has joined on the call. As we wrap up for the day in the next 5 minutes, I just want to say, I want to plead with everybody on this call or those watching online. If we want children to thrive in the AI revolution, we cannot be using the methods of the Industrial Revolution. If we want children to thrive in the AI revolution, we cannot be using the methods of the Industrial Revolution. Now, somebody on this call might say, but Amos, at least it's better than nothing. Like, at least let's give our children something. It's better than nothing. And I'm just going to be very honest with everyone on the call. And again, this might sound intense, but give it a week to digest. The methods of the Industrial Revolution are actually counter to AI revolution executives. That means that if somebody goes through traditional school and doesn't learn how to think outside the box, many companies, they will not do well in the AI revolution. At least in America, they will not do well. And here's why. Because in the AI revolution, you need to be a problem solver, you need to be curious, you need to take action independently of being told what to do next. You need to think different. But our schools sometimes spoon feed us. Our schools sometimes, like, okay, do lesson 1 today. Don't do lesson 2, do lesson 3. Okay, wait. That's not how things are moving in the AI revolution. Here's how things are moving. I'm working on a project. I get stuck. I figure it out myself and I keep moving. That's how we roll. Like as a physicist, when I go to some hospitals, I literally face certain problems. They're not on YouTube, by the way. There's nobody on YouTube explaining, here's how to solve this problem with this CT scanner. So I have to figure it out. Now, what do I do when I get stuck? Well, there are a few things I can do. Number one, I can think about what has ever worked in this type of situation before. So I brainstorm. Okay, that's not working. Okay, now there is collaboration. I could try and reach out, but there's only so many people that I can try to reach. And sometimes I'm working and it's like 7 o'clock in the evening. So I can't reach out to anybody at that time. So then it's like, okay, what am I gonna do? So I have to use something called first principles thinking. I have to rewind and think, okay, let's understand the problem from the basics. See, this type of thinking is what's going to help our students to really do well in the AI revolution, whereby they are thinking from first principles. But how many students are thinking from first principles? A lot of them are just like, I just want to do my homework so I can go play my video game. Like their mind is not, how do I understand this from first principles? And if your children are done with their homework fast, well, why aren't they reading the history of Isaac Newton? Why aren't they reading the history of Leonard Euler? They need to be reading a lot more about the best mathematicians and scientists and physicists and innovators so they can become like them. Let me end with this. By God's grace, we're doing a project where we're going to connect businesses in Texas, USA, with students in Nigeria and in Africa through our STEM clubs across Africa. And here's what we want to do. We want to introduce businesses to bright students and hardworking students in Africa and see how they can be a pathway for those students right from primary 6, right from primary school. But primary 6 is our starting point right now. So we want to take primary 6 students who are hardworking, applying themselves, connect them with executives, if we can, with companies in Austin, Texas, Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. And we're telling them, look out for this child. Keep watching the work he's doing. Read about his stuff in our journal, STEM Clubs Across Africa journal. Read about it. Our journal is starting next year, God willing. And in these journals, I want to start publishing the work of our students because I want the businesses in the US to see what's happening in Nigeria, to see what's happening in Uganda, Tanzania, Ghana, Kenya, and then to say, wow, that kid has a bright future in electrical engineering. Is he open to becoming an electrical engineer? We'll pay for his college. That's the way we go. That's the unique strategy. Do you know that there are people in America now, they are begging for intelligent mathematicians to go into certain fields. True story. The youngest billionaires ever in the history of humanity just became billionaires a few weeks ago. Do you know what business they're in? This is actually kind of funny. Their business is that they're a middleman between businesses that need AI scientists, right? And people that are very highly skilled. Their business is literally middle in between those who are looking for AI scientists and top mathematicians and STEM people and companies and people that have that skill set. If you're a billionaire by being a middleman in such an equation, here's what it tells me. It tells me that there are many companies that are badly looking for highly skilled STEM students. But if you study the lives of the best STEM students, you will notice a pattern. They didn't become the best STEM students just when they showed up in university. Oh no, we knew it in primary school. You don't become a top STEM executive or top STEM. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens because right when you were in primary school and secondary school, you loved solving problems. So everybody on this call, I just want to encourage you all. I know some of you are tutors, and I hope that I've shown the tutors the picture. This is something the world has never done, and by God's grace, we're the first to do it. We're the first to offer Calculus 3 to any student in high school around the world. And we are not going to stop because we believe math is beautiful. So we're raising the bar and we're calling for a new anthem in mathematics education. However, number two, I want you all to please encourage your students. We are working hard in the background to make it possible for them to literally get full scholarships with their airplane ticket paid for to the US to get their degrees. This is not new. My friend had this happen to him. They paid for he got a 4-year scholarship. He literally only had to get on the plane. That's all he had to do. He came to study physics. But anyways, that's funny. But the point I'm trying to make is we have to help our students start dreaming big. And it's not a hopeless dream because the talent, they are looking for people. So STEM clubs across Africa, parents of Nigerian students on this call as well, please encourage your children to start thinking outside the box. Am I saying children can't have fun and whatever? Of course they can have fun. Look at calculus. I mean, what is more fun than calculus? Can somebody tell me anything more fun than calculus? Anyways, I'm joking. But they can have fun. Some of them can play soccer, all of that. That's fine. But please, Amos wants direct flights from Jos, Nigeria, to Texas in the next 5 to 10 years, by God's grace. I want literally that amount of talent to be coming out of Jos, Nigeria, that there will be big airplanes, 747s, A380s, flying from Jos to Houston, direct flight. That is my heart cry, and I believe it is possible by God's grace. Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk very soon. So thank you. Okay, I appreciate thank you so much. Someone had shared some things too. Children should be taught to love math and not fear it. We really have to help them to love math. So, okay, I'm going to stop sharing and then just say bye-bye one last time. Sorry, let's see. Stop sharing. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a blessed day. But please, my email is amosthemathguy@gmail.com. amosthemathguy@gmail.com. And we'll see you guys in the WhatsApp chat, or if you have any emails, I'll be around. Have a blessed day. Take care.